No, I'm fine.
Thank you so much. There's Sylvia. So for the PPR exam, we know domain 1 is worth 34% of our exam. Huge chunk. And it covers standard 1. Standard 1 is like the crux, the foundation of pedagogy, of the skill, the science, the art, the craft of teaching, where we take human development, ideas of diversity, what we know about state curriculum and the TEKS, and how learning occurs in the classroom to create and plan both instruction and consistent assessment.
Huh?
I said, if you guys give a quiz only once a week, or
I
you're
was in here. I haven't gone anywhere.
sorry, guys, let's all mute
No,
ourselves.
I've been here the whole time. I've been here the whole time, babe. I haven't.
Hello?
Didn't he follow you?
We can all hear you.
Didn't he go with you?
I'm gonna mute you. Okay. Sorry, guys. Domain 3 is the second largest chunk in the exam. We know that. Domain 1, it's all about the student, planning for them, knowing about all the ins and out of their human development, their diversity, what we know about the curriculum, and how to plan the most engaging, effective instruction for them. That's the plan. Domain 3 is about implementation of the plan. How do you execute the plan? Which is why it also includes standard 1 again. Domain 1 is only standard 1, only about human growth and development theory, diversity theories, learning theories, and this is about you putting it into action. How do you implement this plan that you have for the difference of population that you have, for the diversity? So it brings in standard 3. How you implement effective instruction is via one way communication. Communicating verbally and non-verbally in the most effective ways, creating opportunities for communication and clarification. Engaging instruction, not just instruction, but engaging. That means they're in it to win it. The kids want to be there. They want to learn. How do we do that? We include them in it. We utilize their particular interests, their particular motivators. Next, we have technology, another way in which we utilize for implementation of instruction. There are a lot of technological advances that have happened even from when I started teaching, for sure from when I started teaching, because we had nothing. But there are so many ways in which to sort of like minimize time expenditure with menial tasks, and even tasks about collaboration on things. Like, let's say somebody's working on a project or a document, they could utilize a Google Doc where the students would be able to track the changes, work collaboratively, and not be in the same location, but still be working on the same project. That tool advancement allows us to implement so many new things into our classroom. Monica, can you still not hear me? Sorry, I just got.
Hello.
Can everyone hear me?
Yes.
Yes.
Yes. Yes, I can hear you.
Monica,
Yes.
can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you.
It's just I got a message from a particular student that says she can't hear me. Can you hear me now? Okay, she didn't say no, so I don't know what's happening. I'm just gonna. Communication. That's what competency 7's about. It's all about communication. That's the first competency in domain 3. It's all about the teacher understanding, not just knowing, Can you hear me? Hello? I'm sorry, did you guys just hear that, or was it just... Monica, can you hear me?
I heard that.
Okay. Not just your understanding, but your application. You're applying and you're utilizing every single day principles and strategies for communicating effectively with your students in a variety of teaching and learning opportunities. And that might be on the playground. It might be I'm a third grade teacher and I'm out, maybe I'm a third grade art teacher and I'm out like collecting, I don't know, leaves so that we can do a rubbing, because that's something that they do in art in elementary. And during the time, a student says, "Miss, what's that?" and points to a particular bird or animal or something, and I know what it is, or a flower. And instead of taking the time away and saying, "No, we're looking for leaves, let's focus," if a student verbalizes out loud interest in something in the learning environment, take the time to make it a learning opportunity. Everything is a learning opportunity. And it doesn't matter that it's not on topic of what the lesson is right this very moment, because it's about leaves and we don't need to look at flowers. But the children's internal motivators, their interest on their own, should never be quashed. We should always take every question, every inquiry within reason, as a means or a learning opportunity, a time to explore, if you will. So within this competency, you are to be engaged in skilled questioning. And skilled questioning is not just the type of questions that you ask, but at what places during the lesson are you asking questions? Let's say you have a teacher has a 45-minute block. During that 45-minute block, they're going to do direct instruction, some guided practice, independent practice for the students, and then maybe like a exit ticket at the end to check for understanding. But if you have in that class ELL students, special ed students, even those that are lower, like just regular English language learners that have low oral language proficiency, they just have low oral language proficiency. Your best practice is to make sure that you have pit stops throughout the lesson, just like moments where I'm going to stop, and it doesn't have to be at the same like interval, like every 15 minutes I'm going to ask a question and check for understanding. It doesn't have to be like that. You know what particular concept or skill might be difficult or challenging, and where to chunk or separate the lesson and or activities to allow for an opportunity to engage in skilled questioning. What this does is twofold. It's for you and for the students. So for you, it allows you to, like, in a small amount of time with a smaller amount of content to assess, for you to check for understanding. If I gave a lesson on tone and we did some practice, analyzing tone in poetry, and then I gave the students opportunity to work by themselves without questioning them to see if they understood the things that we were doing, they might have issues. So having particular areas where you are injecting yourself, and I say it's best practice always to inject yourself with a question. It doesn't even have to be for a grade. I very often stopped and asked questions, did the whole thing pair shares? It wasn't even for a grade. It's just an activity to solidify comprehension. And for your ELL students, for your low performing traditional students, and for your special ed students, those mini breaks, checking for understanding, their opportunities to negotiate understanding and to not get so overwhelmed. So instead of asking them just one exit ticket at the end of class, I might have several exit type questions at different moments that I stop and ask the whole class to listen, write about, turn to their partner, think, pair, share, communicate with each other, and then maybe we'll do a whole group instruction. So the level of questioning, the types of questions that you ask, being able to wait for a response, especially if it's an ELL student, especially if it's a special ed student, because ELL students have to translate, gather what they want to say, then translate. And so those extended wait times, they are invaluable for our vulnerable population. When you're communicating, you need to so even if you think something is like, I shouldn't have to say this to you. No, you should, and you do. Like, say it, communicate everything. Even if you think I shouldn't have to say this to you, I guarantee you need to say it if you think that. So communicating those directions, your explanations, any procedures effectively, and then using strategies for adjusting communication. What does that mean in layman's terms? It means providing examples so that you can enhance comprehension, so that students understand better the directions, understand better the explanations, understand better the procedures. So by providing examples, which is the best way, if you are ever doing a project, a new assignment, a new something, please have a model. Create a model with your students so that they watch you doing it and have a tangible idea of what they should also produce. Simplifying complex tasks or ideas. And that's why I like to ask questions like periodically throughout my lesson, where I stop everything and I'm like, okay, guys, let's think about this for a second. We've just talked about this. And then ask one poignant question for me to check for understanding. Where are we at this point? And also it helps simplify complex comprehension or complex idea. Rather than going 45 minutes without clarification, they have, little chunks, and then they get clarification. And okay, maybe they don't need it, but maybe the next time around they do. And then using those appropriate communication tools, like I said, we have way more communication tools to our disposal than we did when I first started teaching in 2003. Another very, very important aspect of competency 7 is your effective verbal and nonverbals. And your nonverbal communication, I have to say, speaks loudly and with more force than your verbal communications. So I'll give you a scenario. A teacher does not like a particular student who always comes in late and is, typically, lollygagging and creating a ruckus. And so the teacher, like, at times rolls the eyes, is very quick to jump on them, even if they're not the one, in trouble. What message does that send to the student that the teacher is making these nonverbals to? What message does that send? Is it a good or a bad message? Let's just think of it that way.
A bad message.
Absolutely. And we know, think about your experiences in life. Can you tell if someone doesn't like you?
But yeah, by their demeanor.
Absolutely. And so a lot of teachers mistakenly think that just because these little humans are 7, that they can't tell that you are feeling some type of way, and they can't. We need to make sure that our nonverbals are not only positive, but that they're helpful for our ELL students, for our traditional native English speaker students, are just utilizing all of the facets, and nonverbals play a large part. And I think that most communication is nonverbal in a conversation, like what understanding that is, not what you say, but how you say it and what comes along with it. And that transfers to the classroom. And it's so important when you think about the fact that we have kindergartners or third graders or seventh graders, and they might not have anybody at home who says, hey, good job. Even if it's like, good job, you came into class on time and sat down. I am super proud of you. That was awesome. They might not have somebody to do that or to have a smile on their face when they walk in. Your nonverbals, what you say and communicate, especially with your difficult students. You have to make sure you're mindful of that stuff because we're human, and we get frustrated with things out of our control, but never allow the students to see that, and always manage, because it literally is our job, your communication. Manage your communication to be most effective, most engaging. And I guarantee you, if the students feel that you care about them, you have no problems engaging them, period. I have never had an issue with a class, and we had fun so much in class, but I told them, guys, we need to settle down and get down to business. We settled down and we got down to business, but they knew that I valued them as people, and I was very mindful, especially because I'm a grumpy person if I don't have coffee in the morning, and of not being sort of flippant with my nonverbals, because these are impressionable, developing little flowers, and just a careless something on my behalf because I didn't have coffee could actually be detrimental to children in the classroom, to their learning and to their sense of self. So just be mindful of that, because it is best practice and our job. Let's take a look at this particular question. Now, before we take a look at this question, I want to hear somebody tell me, what are the strategies that we use every single time we read a Texas question? What are the strategies?
We look for keywords.
Absolutely. What else?
Look for the grade level they're talking about.
Right. If there's a grade level, that's important, right? Because we need to know where they are developmentally. What else?
What's the
Key
topic?
phrases.
Keywords and phrases. If there's any temporal marker, like a time, like during, like this one says during science class, that's during it's not before, it's during. It's not after, it's during. So all of those. Also, we ask ourselves, what is the overall goal? What is the teacher trying to achieve in this scenario? Try to state that in a sentence. So reading it mindfully is step number one. During a science class, a fourth grade teacher forms cooperative learning groups to have students complete an experiment on weathering. Which of the following actions by the teacher will most effectively ensure that each student is accountable for the success of the experiment? Now, we just talked about communication, and that's why I put this question underneath it, because it happens to be a domain 3, competency 7 type question. So during a science class, we have during it, in the thick of it, she has these cooperative learning groups. Give me some other keywords and phrases for me to highlight for you guys that you think are important for us to pay attention to.
Or grade?
Fourth grade. If it's an
Cooperative
age
learning.
group or a grade level, yes, cooperative learning. If it's an age group or a grade level, we want to take it into consideration, because we would do different things with kindergartners than we would do with fourth graders, than we would do with seventh graders, than we would do with 11th graders, based on where they are cognitively, emotionally, maturity wise. So they're going to complete an experiment on weathering, which of the
Most
following
effectively.
most, guys, whenever they say most, what do I always say when they say most or best?
So red
There's gonna be
flag.
more than one answer.
Exactly. There could be more than one correct answer anytime they use the word most effective or best, most appropriate. It is because they've given you more than one appropriate response. One is more appropriate than the other, or more effective than the other, based on the specifics in the scenario and in the question. So that sends off alarm bells. Most effectively, ensure that each student is accountable for the success of the student. So we want the students to be accountable. We want them to be accountable for doing the experiment correctly, right? Successfully. The most appropriate way. for this group of fourth graders. Let's see. Whenever you are answering these questions, you are never, I repeat, never to just read them and choose the right answer. I want for you always to read them and look for answers you know for sure are not right and eliminate those. And then utilize your analysis of keywords and phrases, what we identified as the goal, which was the best way to hold these kids accountable or to make sure they're held accountable for the completion of the assignment, the experiment. You are to weigh your answer choices up against your analysis of the scenario, of the question, of the keywords and phrases. Only if it measures enough, it addresses them, it works with them, it's not, the opposite of what we should do, then can we choose it. So let's read through and then we're going to eliminate them based on what we know is not best practice. Assigning activity rules for each group member. Providing explicit instructions for the group activity. Ensuring all group members, not members, all group materials, yes, are organized. Allowing students to select group members. Now remember, I want for you to eliminate ones. You can bet yourself $5 that is not the right answer because it's either not best practice, it doesn't go with keywords and phrases, it doesn't jive with the goal, or it's opposite of the goal. So what can we eliminate and better?
D.
D.
Yes,
D
D.
is never ever best practice. We carefully craft our cooperative learning groups, our pairs. Even when I put people next to each other and they're going to be think pair share partners, I'm thinking, what is their linguistic ability? What is their skill ability? I want for the students to be resources to each other. So allowing them to select the group members is going to allow them to choose people who are like them, people that they know, that they're familiar with. They will not learn anything new. You learn from different. And so you have to carefully craft, even if you have 12th graders and they're like, Miss, that's my best friend. We've been in high school, every English, and we're always partners. I'm sorry. You guys can talk about how much fun your new partners are. I don't know what to tell you. Like getting them to get out of their shell for their own benefit, because you know that this other partner has something that they need and they have something that the other partner needs. So D is never the answer. What else can we eliminate? C will not help us achieve our goal. C will not help us achieve our goal. How can ensuring all group members, it's not group members, again, materials are organized, group materials are organized. How can that ensure that the students are accountable for the success of the experiment? It doesn't make any sense. That wouldn't help. Of course, would we want to ensure that the materials are organized? Yes, absolutely. It would be chaos if it weren't. Like, can you imagine if you gave them a group project and the materials were just like in this big basin that they had to get it from? It'd be chaos for fourth graders. So of course C needs to happen, but it's not the most important. It's not going to make sure that the students are accountable for what they need to do in the experiment. So we're left with A and B, assigning activity roles and providing explicit instructions for group activity. Which do we think is most effective in order to achieve the goal here in the scenario, which is for the students to be able to ensure that they're able to be accountable for their success?
I think the answer is B.
We have two different suggestions. I heard somebody say A and somebody say B.
I said A.
Okay. Tell me why you think A is the answer.
Because it's asking for each student to be accountable. On A, it's saying assuring the activity roles for each group member.
That's true. But each student is accountable. It is true. It's true. However, if you could only let me put it to you this way. Think about it this way. Because remember, when we eliminate them down to the like most possible. And these Pearson people are like almost slightly criminals because you would do both of these things, right? Obviously, any science teacher is going to do both. Provide explicit instructions for the group activity and also help them by assigning activity roles for each group member. But if only one is to happen, which one absolutely needs to happen in order for students to have any ability to be accountable for the success of the experiment in its totality?
B. Explicit instruction.
Absolutely, it's B. And that's why these questions are so tricky, because when they say most effective, most appropriate, it is because they've given you things you would obviously do, multiple steps in like the rationale of this happening. But you need to think of it in order to achieve what the goal that they've said. I can only choose one, which needs to happen absolutely in order for this to take place. And if I were to sort of skip providing explicit, that means direct, like this is what we're going to do in step 1, then after step 1 we're doing this and this person has to do this. Direct explicit instructions for
That
the
was actually a great explanation. I was actually torn between A and B, but that actually really helps the explanation.
Excellent. I'm so glad. So you're not wrong. Absolutely. A would help the individual. If it had said each individual student accountable for the success of the experiment, A would be a better answer, because A helps them individually be more accountable for their roles. But in order for each student, just on the surface, for the totality of the experiment, B, those explicit instructions, that always has to take place. And that goes back to what I was, the slide before, of providing examples, simplifying complex tasks or ideas, using, explaining in detail the procedures, the steps, so that they can have expectations and directions to go to. So that was a good one, guys. Good deal. All right, next we have Miss Bomber suspects Marcos, a special education student, is overwhelmed with the group work and his behavior fails to improve. She discusses the situation with the special education teacher, who suggests that Miss Bomber scaffold the project to ease Marcos's frustration. Which of the following is an example of scaffolding that would best support Marcos? Okay, before you read answer choices, what keywords and phrases should we pay attention to?
Special education
Special
student.
ed.
Special ed, for sure. Alarm bells went off. We know we have to utilize particular strategies to make sure students can gain comprehension during lessons. This one is a perfect example of that. So what else? What else is important?
Group work.
Yeah, he's doing group work. What else? What's the goal? What is the goal? What are we trying to achieve here? Or what is the
His-
question? asking?
Ease his
His behavior.
frustration.
Like
His
scaffolding.
behavior.
Scaffolding.
Right. I
Scaffolding.
heard ease frustration, scaffolding, right? Scaffolding. The special ed teacher said scaffolding will help ease his frustration. You guys know what a scaffold is, right? When they're like washing windows or whatever, someone comes and washes a window and then it's on like the 3rd story, so they have to have a scaffold and have someone up here so that person can be up there and stand and wash the high window. That's what we do in class so much for our students, to help them achieve a particular task. It's a help, a support, a lift, if you will, a boost for the students. So we are looking for a particular scaffold, and the goal is for sure to ease Marcos's frustration. So let's take a look at what we can do and what we think might best do that. So we have A, providing Marcos with a rubric detailing expectations. Giving Marcos a choice of tangible, meaningful rewards. Chunking the group work into smaller, simpler tasks. Sending home unfinished tasks so that parents can help. Okay, let us assess all the answer choices and weigh them against what we identified is the goal. What are we doing? What we're looking for? We're looking for the best scaffolding to ease frustration during group work. That's the goal. Which one of these can you bet yourself $5 is not the answer, because it will not in any way help ease frustration as a scaffolding tool?
A.
D.
I heard
D as in
lots of answers.
dog.
I heard A
D.
and I heard D. Let's
D.
hear it.
Yeah, A and D.
Yes,
A
A
D.
and D.
D. Why is
B.
A something not likely to ease his frustration? He's special ed. We know that. That's part of keyword. What? Why would this not help him?
Because rubrics are really complicated. Or they could cause him like more frustration.
Absolutely. They would cause more frustration. He is unlikely to understand the directions as you described them. And a rubric would be a more formalized explanation of expectations and would likely increase, not decrease or ease his frustration. What about D? Why can we very confidently bet ourselves $5 D is not the right answer?
Because
Well,
the
if he's
parents
already
might,
having trouble at home, at school, then at home would be even more difficult.
Exactly. Sending home an unfinished assignment for a student already struggling without intervention, supports, or scaffold is literally a recipe for the disaster. And guess what?
you're gonna frustrate the parents too.
Absolutely, absolutely will frustrate the parents too. So D is not the right answer. We're left with B and C, giving Marcos a choice of tangible, meaningful rewards or chunking the group work into smaller, simpler tasks.
The
Which one?
answer C.
C.
Yes.
C. Answer is C.
C.
Absolutely. B isn't a scaffold. It's a reward, right?
Yeah.
C is an actual scaffold, taking the steps, and it's part of that communication. You have to vary your communication with your students' needs. It might be that I can be and sometimes I would have a project that I'm going to do with all my classes, and I had AP, pre-AP, and regular classes, and they call them traditional classes now, I think. But same project in different classes, I might need to do different things with my explanation, with breaking down the steps into smaller parts. It might not need to be done for the AP kids, but for my regular students where I had ELL students, where I had special ed students, absolutely, I had to break down complex, tasks into smaller, more manageable tasks for them to be less frustrated, for them to have breaking points to check for comprehension if need be. So C is the best course of action. Good job, guys.
Miss Sauceda, this is a very similar question that is on the test.
Yes.
Yes, I just took my test on Monday.
Oh my goodness. And how did it go? Tell us the details, the deets.
Well, taking your class helped too. Like I was telling my husband, I said I should have taken our class a long time ago. Because breaking it down and looking at the answers first, going backwards, helped so much.
Yes.
So yeah, this is a very, very similar question that was on one of the questions that was on the test.
Yeah, sorry, my 7-year-old was in here whispering about pickles. She came and was
So
like,
yeah, I was very confident taking this test. This was my second time taking it. So yeah, I was very, very confident
okay,
going in there and taking it. Using the highlighter to, like you said, look at the audience choices that you know are not going to work to
Right,
help.
that are not
Do
best
give you
practice.
two very, very similar answers that are correct.
Right. And typically you might do both of them, but one is first or best practice.
Right. Right.
Based on the
And like
specific-
you said, you got to look for that one particular word that they're looking for, and you're like, okay, that's it.
Yep. It's true. Absolutely. So you just tested and you got your scores back already.
No, I haven't yet.
Oh,
I
okay.
think I'm in San Antonio, so I think it takes 3 days. So hopefully, maybe by later tonight or tomorrow, I should get something.
How exciting. Well, I'll stalk for you. I always stalk. I will ask Miss Alvarez. She gets the scores, not your score report, because we never receive your score reports, only you guys do. But I know that they do can check the pass fail and like overall
Yeah,
raw score. Okay.
yeah. Because the first time I took it, I only missed it by 18 points. So
Goodness. So I hope this next time is a last time.
yes, me too.
But did you get that? Was there a question similar to that and you got it right?
Yes, that's what I chose, to do it in chunks. Yes.
Absolutely. That's the way. Remember, simplify, making it simple, especially for our ELLs. Their language is simple. Their language proficiency is simple. So if we're this big, old complex, like, directions, all these pages, they're not going to get it at all. It has to be simplified.
Yeah.
Comprehensible text. That's key with our ELL. So here's an ELL one right now. So a 6th grade world cultures class contains several English language learners at various levels of English language proficiency. To best help the ELLs connect to the content, which of the following should the teacher do first? Okay, lots of words. Let's break them down. What are the words? Keywords and phrases we have to pay attention to because they're important to the right answer.
6th grade.
English language learners.
Yeah, 6th grade and English learners, both of those, ELL.
Various levels of the English
Thank you.
proficiency.
They're at various levels. So we don't even know. They could be beginner. They could be intermediate. What else?
Advanced and
And
advanced high.
Advanced.
And advanced high, right. So we have various levels. We can have any combination of these to best help the ELLs connect. So what's our goal for this? What's the goal for the teacher?
Connect.
Connect to the content.
Connecting to the content is the goal. So our answer has to be appropriate for 6th graders and ELLs with various levels of proficiency and help them connect to the content. So what should they do? Keyword first, which means that maybe they gave you multiple things that they would do, but there's one that needs to happen first. So let's read these with the critical eye again. Okay, so we can highlight the critical content that will be in the text, ask questions about the content that will activate high levels of thinking, access their prior knowledge about the content, provide graphic organizers that outline the main ideas of the text context. What can we eliminate? The goal is to connect to the content, and we're trying to find the best way to have various levels of ELL students connect to the content. We have these ways. Which is the best way in order to have the teacher? What should we do first?
We can eliminate A.
So just highlighting the critical content for them. Will that make them connect to the content in any meaningful way?
No.
Not really. I mean, it might draw their eye to it momentarily, but it's not going to elicit any meaning. Okay, well, what else? What else can we eliminate?
Eliminate B also. Ask a
B.
question about high level thinking. It's not everyone.
It's not for everyone. Listen, we have various levels of English proficiency that could include beginner and intermediate. We're going to be, asking questions about the content that activate high levels of thinking. They don't even have the language for that yet. How can that help them connect to the content better? It could never be the right answer. And we can bet ourselves $100. It's not it. What else? So we're left with access their prior knowledge about the content or provide graphic organizers that outline the main ideas. Which is the best to have the students connect directly to the content?
D, I believe the right one.
Which
I
one?
want to say it's C because it says, what should you do first?
Right.
I say
I
C.
agree. C.
Survey says, guys, we have C and D, and would you provide graphic organizers for ELL students that outline main ideas? Absolutely, you would. You super would. Absolutely. However, if you did that without first presenting the knowledge,
knowledge.
content, connecting it to something that they know before, they're not going to connect to it. They're just going to get a graphic organizer with stuff on it. C is the first step to connecting. And so connecting their prior knowledge is the connection. So it's them to the content, their brain to the content. And in order to do that, guys, you have to know your students, which is standard 1, which is domain 1. Knowing who they are, what their experiences have and might have been, what would elicit prior knowledge from them, very important. And you can only do this if you know your students so well. So C is the right answer. And D, of course you would do D. D will help the students understand, comprehend the content, but it's not going to make them connect to the content. That connection only happens. Remember, I say we use prior knowledge in or at least I did, like a lasso, right? Like you throw the lasso and you fling it on someone. It's like this thing that I know you know, and I'm going to connect it to you, and now you know the main content. That's what prior knowledge does. It helps bring them towards understanding of the new concept because they bring their own experiences to it. So C is always first and always best practice. We always do this, always build prior knowledge first. The beginning of class, for your special ed, for your regular ed, for your ELL learners, for your socio ed, like literally always try to elicit prior knowledge at the beginning of your lesson, sort of like a movie trailer. Like I just went and watched Haunted Mansion, and I hit 2. It's not Haunted Mansion Part 2, it's called Haunted Mansion, but I thought it was Haunted Mansion Part 2 because we're fans of Haunted Mansion Part 1. We'd seen the preview and we thought, this is great, we'll watch it. My 7 and 8-year-old girls are fans of Haunted Mansion 1. However, the previews sort of like didn't really show us how scary it was going to be. It's not so much like the Disney version, and it was a lot scarier. But a good trailer will accurately give you an idea of what you can expect and like who's the bad guy and what is even going on. Where are we going and what are we doing? So prior knowledge activates that sort of movie trailer a little bit, gives them that background knowledge to connect. And in the beginning, it's invaluable for them.
This is another one that's on there as well.
Yes?
Yes. Very similar. Yes.
I know not where these questions came from. I am just the messenger.
Yeah, they're very similar.
Okay, I think we're going to end here for today. We have 10 minutes. I want to stop and ask some questions. We're going to continue next week with engaging instruction. That's you providing appropriate instruction that actively engages your students in learning. This one is a little bit larger, which is why I'm pausing here because it has several different. The one we were doing only had 4 substandards of the competency. Competency 8 engaging instruction, that means that it's like entertaining. And I know people hate to think of it that way, but like even you, or even a teacher who doesn't like to think of it that way, you don't want to go somewhere where you're bored or this isn't interesting or what does this have to do with me or how is this effective to my life? And children think of it on a more basic level than even we can sort of understand it. They can't. So we have to, as much as possible, engage them in meaningful instruction, and instruction that's interesting to them, and instruction that like resonates with their real experiences and their life in order for them to be active in the learning process with us. So that one, if I had to like one, it has substandards A through J, and we just won't have time to go through it tonight. So we will start there and probably finish on Saturday, because our Saturday class lasts an hour and a half typically. I know last Sunday was almost 2 hours. I apologize for you guys. We just got into the nitty gritty and we just kept on going for a
What
little.
time is the Saturday class? 6 or 6:30?
Saturday is at 11, and I apologize for having to reschedule,
Oh.
but we had a death in my family. My daughter's uncle passed away, and it was very tragic.
Oh, okay.
Well, I mean, it was expected, but it still was tragic, of cancer. And so it's been like the things and family things have been on Saturdays, but you know, typically we have class on Saturday from 11:30, excuse me, not 11:30, 11 to 12:30 on Saturdays, and from 6:30 to 7:30 on Wednesdays. But last week we had class from, I believe, 6 to 8. I'm not sure. It's just because I had class before. Some people came early and I just like forgot myself and started class. And then, and I also wondered, like, why are there only 4 people in attendance? That's so odd. And usually people attend like right on time. But then at 6:30, and I didn't notice the time, that might be why. At 6:30, all these people started coming. They're like, I'm so sorry I'm late. And then I realized the time and I realized what had happened. I gave a session from 5 to 6. And while we went a little bit longer on my session from 5 to 6 on Sunday, and some people came in early, and we just started the class 30 minutes early. But that won't happen this Saturday. We'll begin at 11, and we'll continue going through domain 3, which is 33% of our exam. And you know, very important, it's us doing, like we plan. Standard 1, domain 1 is planning it. Domain 3 is the doing. What techniques and strategies are you using to make the magic happen in your classroom, to make learning take place? So I will see you guys on Saturday.
At 11?
Yes, sir, at 11.
Okay.
Thank you so much for your condolences. I appreciate it.
All right, thank you.
Somebody sent a new link for Saturday or just automatic?
I'm sorry?
Are you gonna send us like a new link for Saturday or is this automatic?
Well, you can either sign up and or email me when we finish. Miss Sauceda, send me the link for Saturday and I'll send it to you.
Okay, all right, thank
One or
you.
the other.
Miss Stephanie.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Yes,
Thank you, Miss Stephanie. Have a good evening. I'm sorry. I'm here like arguing with my daughter.
No,
Thank
not
you
at
so
all. Go
much.
do you. Go do you. I appreciate you.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Yes, ma'am.
Thank
Miss
you,
Stephanie,
Miss
has Miss Christina, has she been out of office?
This week, she might have been. I'm not sure. I'm not in the office. Like I'm like a rare. I'm like the one. Actually, not. There's a couple of us, but there's most of them work in the physical office. I don't work there, so I don't see them every day.
Every day.
But
Okay, I was just asking because
Uh-huh.
I received an email from Jessica about, and I emailed her too. I was just trying to get the certified teacher in active again for the PPR, and I haven't received a response from them. I've reached out to
I
them
will
twice.
fix it for you tomorrow, Miss Ennis.
Okay.
I am on it. Miss Sauceda is on the case, so I will get that fixed for you tomorrow.
Okay, thank you.
Absolutely, it's my pleasure.
Miss Sauceda,
Yes.
I just have a question. I received an email from Mr. Villa saying this is the first time that I will do the PPR.
Okay.
So he said that I needed to do the benchmark, which I already did, and I needed to take a session with you in order to be able to, for you to open the exam for me.
Okay.
But I don't know if I have to do like the whole course with you for the PPR or only one session.
I'll ask them to open it for you and you can schedule it and continue to come to classes if you want.
Okay, because I already sent the email to Ms. Garza
Mm-hmm.
asking for her to open the exam for me.
Okay, well, tomorrow I'll let them know that you're ready for that and so that you can attempt it.
Okay, perfect. Thank you very much.
Yes, and Francisco Cavazos, I'm gonna do yours as well. Are there any more questions from those remaining?
Not on my side. Thank you very much.
Absolutely, it's a pleasure, guys. You have a beautiful rest of your week.
Bye. Thank you. Have a good night.
Yes, absolutely. Thank you. Monica, how did you enjoy class with our Teacher Builder students? Are you there? Good. I'm so glad. So I'll send you the link for Saturday. And I will see you here and we'll continue. You're going to get it this next time. I know it. It's my pleasure. You have a beautiful rest of your evening.